T.
Hi, my name is Awudi. In this video, I'm going to be going over all of the tips and tricks I have found in a new Apex game mode known as Arena, and I'm going to be going over everything that I have learned during my process of playing this game mode. The reasons why I feel like making this video is because I feel like I've learned a lot and I would like to spread my knowledge. As of right now on PC, I am 5th for kills, 1st place for wins, and 12th place for damage. For Bangalore specifically, I am in 1st place for kills, wins, and 2nd place for damage. And my highest current gotten win streak is 153. This video is being recorded on May 8th, 2021 at 11:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, as of the current time of this video, these are my stats and my longest win streak. In this video, I'm going to be going over a couple of things that I'm going to try to structure to make it as easy as possible, and so you can go to which specific area you feel like would fit you the most. Economy. In this area, I'm going to be going over the guns in the game, and I'm going to be going over which guns are the best and how to control your economy so you can get as much with the money that you have in game. I'm also going to be going over positioning, general strategies, comms and team play, the best characters in my opinion, and I'm going to tell you what their best uses are. And I'm going to explain to you how the Impress Me badge works, as not everybody knows that there's actually tiers to the Impress Me badge. And I'm going to be going over simple rollouts so that way you can get to certain areas on the map the absolute fastest so you can beat your enemy there for non-movement characters, aka everybody except Horizon, Octane, Pathfinder, so on and so forth. So, I hope you enjoy the video and let's get into the tips and tricks.
Stacy got the brib and a brand new bag. Going up good so she can't look back.
So let's talk about crafting materials. And by crafting materials, I essentially mean your money in the arena, as the money is called crafting materials. Whenever you first start out, you get 550 crafting materials. Around the map, there are 4 crafting material bins. Every time you collect the materials from these bins, everybody on your team gets an extra 200 crafting materials going into the next match. Every time you get a kill, you get an additional 75 crafting materials going into the next round. If you do not spend any money from the previous round, the money that you had from the last round will be saved and brought over to the next round. There is also a round bonus, so the longer that the match goes on, the more money that the game gives you for crafting materials. For example, round 1 you get 800, round 2 you get 1,150, round 3 you get 1,500, and so on and so forth.
Stacy got the brib and a brand new bag. Going up good so she can't look back.
Now let's talk about guns. Guns in the arena and in Apex in general are the most important thing. It determines what, you kill people with and what keeps you from life and death. If you're good with a certain weapon, it can determine you winning or losing a game. So my personal go-to, the very first match whenever you load in is to grab the VK-47 Flatline from the Assault Rifles and LMGs tab, which will take up all of your starting cash. However, you get the P2020 or Mozambique for free, and do not sleep on the Mozambique. It is a very good weapon, especially as a secondary. So my go-to is to grab the Flatline and the Mozambique. That is my round 1. Round 2 and onward is whenever things begin to get a little bit more interesting. As the matches go on, you get more money. So for myself personally, if you are going to run a assault rifle, I would very much so recommend the flatline, because though the R301 is only 60 cash or crafting materials more, that extra 50 is actually really expensive, to where I veer away from buying the R301 until the very later rounds if it's necessary. If I want to use an assault rifle, I go the flatline. I buy a Mozambique. I buy maybe a couple of smokes and some meds if I have the spare cash. Considering I'm Bangalore, the smokes are very useful for me. If I feel like running an SMG, Myself personally, I like to go with the R99, and the R99 is only 550. So you can technically upgrade and grab a Volt, which has better DPS and the mags last longer and is 50 cash less. Myself personally, I just prefer to use the R99. And then on top of that, I'll upgrade my R99 maybe once or twice, and then I'll grab a Mozambique. I'll grab a couple of smokes, maybe one big med, and then if I have the extra cash, I'll upgrade my Mozambique to a white. Now, if I want to run a pistol, and for myself personally, this would be my go-to strategy. Wingman Mozambique is the most optimal, in my opinion, strategy. In my 153 game win streak, I didn't use the Wingman maybe about 6 or 7 times. Now, yes, you can make the argument, well, I'm not very good with the Wingman. I'm just going to throw a lot of my shots. If you can hit out of 6 or 7 shots with the Wingman, around about 2 consistently, the arena is a game mode based around meds. If you're going for the win, it's a game mode of meds. Whichever team runs out of meds first is the team that is going to lose that round. And also, the wingman, if you hit a headshot, considering the large majority of the rounds are done with blue armor, you get a free crack. They buy maybe one battery, they start off with 2 cells. That's pretty much most of their meds gone off rip. So the wingman combined with its damage, its output of damage per magazine, the fact that you can choose your scopes with middle click, and the fact that you have an insane strafe speed, especially for myself since I play Bangalore, that all it makes my strafe just much deadlier, wingman with double time. You're hard to hit, you do a lot of damage, and you don't need to hit as many shots as you would necessarily think. It is also one of the best clutch weapons I personally think in the game. You can take out an entire person with purple armor in about 4 wingman shots if you hit them all in a row. That is insane, and that is my go-to weapon. I won a lot of 1v3s and was able to clutch out a lot of games that I probably would have lost if I used any other weapon because of the wingman.
Stacy got the brib and a brand new bag. Going up good so she can't look back.
Now let's talk about strategy. Now, funnily enough, the strategy is actually going to be the easiest part to cover in this video, as my strategy is actually not one hard to follow. It's actually very simple. So my go-to strategy is at the start of every round, check and look and see which of the med bins on the map are in the ring, if there's one, or if both of them are in the ring. What I do from that point forward is I go to whichever side of the map the ring is in, where there's the med bin, and I collect the meds from that bin. Straight from spawn, run directly to the med bin, contest for the med bin if necessary, and grab the meds from the med bin. Broke the dude with the hemlock. Headshot him! Headshot him! 76 flesh on this guy. He's super low. He's literally like 10 health. He's gonna pop a battery, but he's low. I'm coming back. I got meds. I got a med for you. I got a Phoenix kit for you, Wraith. Broke him. Headshot him. Headshot him. This guy's one knocked. Well played. Good shit, boys.
Stacy got the brib and a brand new bag. Going up good so she can't look back.
Now let's talk about comms. In that last clip, you could probably tell that I was calming quite a bit, more than what most people would deem necessary. However, the reason why I was calming that much is because of the fact that I like to keep my teammates in the loop. Letting your teammates know the damage you did and what is going on can give them a general idea of the situation, and I had plenty of times where I actually had teammates getting amped up because of the fact that I was calming, so they were calming too and they were assisting. It gives good team play, and if you're going for a win or you want to have a good time, team play is definitely going to be necessary. So make sure to calm. It is always good, even if people don't calm back, that one person calming can still be the difference between winning or losing the match because everybody has a general idea of what is going on. And for team play, as you could tell, keep an eye on where your teammates are and if you can help them. For example, after I grabbed that med bin, I ran straight to my Wraith and I offered her a Phoenix kit. Now, whether she uses it or not, if she picks it up, she can still use it at a later date and time, even if it wasn't right then, right there. So she still has meds, and it's also a grand gesture and a morale boost because she's like, okay, my teammate's nice. He gave me a Phoenix kit. It makes the team play better, and as I said, increases morale. So it makes everybody play better and play more as a team. Comms and keeping an eye on your teammates are so you can help them if possible. You can't always help your teammates, especially if they're in a really bad situation and you're dealing with your own problem or you're too far away. But if you can help them, do.
Stacy got the brib and a brand new bag. Going up good so she can't look back.
So let me very quickly explain the Impress Me badge. So the way that the Impress Me badge in Apex works is it is the badge from the Season 8 event where you grabbed the codes and you brought it to the airship to where you got to see a teaser of the arena before Season 9, where it displayed Ash's face and it just was called Impress Me. What it does on Season 9 is it displays your highest win streak. However, there are 10 tiers to the Impress Me badge. Every time you go up by 10 in your highest win streak, it will upgrade one tier. For example, tier 1 is at 10 wins in a row, tier 2 is 20 wins in a row, tier 3 is 30 wins in a row, and it continues to grow in that fashion. The highest tier, being 10, is whenever it turns back into Ash's face. Now, the reason why I explain this is because since I've gone on this win streak, I've had a lot of people asking me how I've gotten the Season 8 badge because theirs only shows their win streak. And that is how you do it. Your reward for winning the 100 games in a row is just basically a picture of Ash's face.
Stacy got the brib and a brand new bag. Going up good so she can't look back.
Now let's talk about positioning. I've seen a lot of very good players and players that I know can hold their own in a gunfight position themselves horribly, at least in this type of scenario for the arena, especially if you're going for wins. Now, positioning yourself properly is something that requires quite a bit of game sense, and the only way you can really get that is through playing the game a lot. However, my advice would be considering the arena is mostly a game mode of who has more meds, positioning yourself in an area that you can shoot the enemy, but you're also not super close that you're going to be shot at by a bunch of people. You have cover by you. You're trying to hide behind as much cover as possible, and you're not leaving your body wide open whenever you peek, knowing what your line of sight is, everything like that. That is all positioning, and that is what I would recommend you to try to do. Peek people, poke them, try to remain behind as much cover as you possibly can, and do not just run straight in at the enemy team unless you know for a fact that you're going to be able to get a couple of kills going into that push. Just because you broke one person or you got somebody low, if you run in there by yourself, or if you run in there and your teammates aren't ready or something like that, sure, you may get that kill, but now you're knocked. Is it really worth it, especially considering you ran over to their side so they can easily get a res off by the time your teammates get there? So positioning yourself is very, very important, and it's better to play defense rather than offense a lot of the time. Though I catch myself playing offense a large majority of the time, that is just because I calmed my teammates that I'm ready to go. I let them know, they confirm that they're ready to go too. And the only time where I calm that I'm ready to push is whenever somebody is low, broken, killed, or basically everybody on the enemy team is low enough to where a push is what makes most sense.
Stacy got the brib and a brand new bag. Going up good so she can't look back.
Now let us talk about characters. I'm going to be going over the characters based on how good I think they are in terms of pub play and in high tier competitive play whenever the ranked arena mode comes out. And I will be doing this courtesy of Tier Maker. So we're going to start first with Octane. Now, Octane, it costs a decent amount of money to buy his Q, and considering how expensive most things are and that you're going to be spending most of your money on weapons, it essentially renders his Q useless. And the primary purpose that you would be using his Q for would be for essentially just getting to the crafting materials first or running and flanking behind a team or something like that. But Octane is also very loud, so it's very predictable, and everybody knows that you're flanking behind him. The only time I could see Octane ever being good is if you were to buy his ultimate, you throw it down right outside of spawn, so that way your entire team is able to get towards the ring and to the first med bin first. That is the only time I could ever see this character being useful. So I will put Octane in the situational category in terms of both pubs and in high tier play, because if you are just being beaten because there's pathfinders or other characters beating you to the med bins and you're not able to get them and you see no other way around it, that is the only time I would see him good. However, it is very hard for me to even put him in situational and not just put him straight up in the D tier, which would be the worst tier. So overall, not a good character. Almost never is there really a use for Octane. Now, Pathfinder, on the other hand, Pathfinder is a very useful character in this game mode. You can use his grapple to get towards the med supplies first. You can get to height faster on maps like Artillery, and you can also disengage and engage into combat and get to the long distances much faster, and it doesn't really take that many grapples for him to be useful, so you don't have to waste that much money on Pathfinder. For this reason, in terms of his mobility, how quickly he can get and secure an area, and how dangerous that he can be, I would definitely put Pathfinder in the A tier, if not the S tier. For the sake of this, I'm going to be putting him in the S tier, as I do think Pathfinder is going to be a almost must pick up in high tier competitive play, and I think he is extremely good in pubs. Rampart. Considering this is a game of meds and most of the time you are bunkering down in one area, characters like Rampart are actually pretty useful. So, because you can set up her wall and you can get some good shots up, or you can put some cover behind you so enemies maybe have to climb over the wall, or etc., etc., this character can be very useful if you have somebody playing her that knows what they are doing. So for Rampart specifically, I would put her in B tier. As for pubs, I think she would be very good. And in high tier play, I don't think she would be that bad either. However, you would have to figure out good Rampart walls and good ways to utilize this character. But when utilized very well, I feel like Rampart could be an A, possibly even the team that's using her S tier. But in general, I would put Rampart as a B tier character. Wattson. Now, Wattson, sadly enough, because you really only get her pylons, is almost a as useful character as Octane. Honestly, I would say even more useless. Wattson is just not really good in this game mode. Just enough said. Nobody's gonna really run into her pylons. The stuff's too open. There's too many different areas to flank her to climb up on. Uh, there's no sense in buying more of her pylons. Buying her ultimate is very expensive, and you'd be basically limiting yourself on meds and weapons if you were to do this. So, realistically, if you pick Wattson, it's essentially that you like her very slow passive, and that's really about it. I couldn't even put Wattson in situational. I'm going to have to put Wattson in the worst category here. Now, as for Wraith, everybody loves Wraith. I think her portal in high tier play could be very useful. In low tier play, I don't think it's going to be very that useful in like pubs and stuff like that. However, in high tier play, Wraith Portal is very useful that I think most characters would pick up Wraith a large majority of the time, especially for like Gibby Wraith plays. I would definitely see it being very good and a very useful character. So I will be putting Wraith in the A tier. The reason why I'm not putting her in the S tier is because I think she's very valuable in high rank competitive play for the arenas. However, in pubs, I do not see her being extremely useful. Fuse, do I really need to get into this? All he can really do is launch grenades far, and his Q is terrible. I'm not even going to get into that. He's not good. Please do not pick him, especially in your pubs. Revenant. Revenant is a very, very good and annoying character for a reason. He's a fucking bitch to play up against. Excuse my language, but he is very, very, very annoying to go up against. In a high level of play, I would see Revenant being extremely useful, and even in pubs, I would see Revenant being extremely useful for his Qs and his ultimate. Revenant is one of the few players that if I see him on the enemy team, I immediately go, oh, fuck, I gotta deal with this now. So definitely an S tier character along with Pathfinder. Valkyrie. Valkyrie is a nice character in Battle Royale. In this game mode, however, I understand why everybody's wanting to play her, but I don't see her being that good. Her ultimate is not useful in this game mode, and in general, she's not really going to be all that useful. I would put Valkyrie in the C tier for the sole fact that her passive can still be very useful for getting yourself up in height or distance yourself away from certain people. However, it's basically like Octane's jump pad whenever you're in her passive. You're a very slow and easy target to hit. So really the only way Valkyrie is useful is if you hit a lot of your missile swarm tactical because it stuns and it disorients the enemy players. But a Valkyrie hitting me with her tactical out of the like 200 plus games I've played so far has only killed me quite literally one time. So it goes to show you how useless it kind of is a large majority of the time. I've actually killed more Valkyries because they hit themselves with their passive, I mean with their tactical, rather than me dying to it. Crypto. Crypto is a pretty useful character in high tier level of play, and if you were going for like big win streaks and you wanted to play cunty, he could be pretty decent in pubs as well. However, the only way for Crypto to be super useful, it's almost a guaranteed you have to buy his ultimate. So if you do this, you're essentially putting yourself in a situation to where you don't have weapons really, but his ultimate is useful because you can pop an ult on everybody and then you can immediately run at them, basically how you would do in normal battle royale ranked. However, considering how much money it would cost to do this and how little you would be leaving yourself as a character in doing this, I would say this would only be useful if the other team is getting more poke damage than you and is just simply getting better shots off than you, and really your only chance is to push at them. So for this, I would say Crypto is a situational character. Caustic. Caustic is kind of the same as Crypto, except instead of trying to be aggressive, you're trying to be defensive. If the enemy team, if you're not able to push on them, Crypto would be a good character so you can be able to push at them and get enough damage off towards them and to get them to stop picking you as much. However, if the enemy team is pushing you so much to the point that it's getting you killed almost every time, you're finding it very annoying to deal with them pushing you. They just keep getting at all angles, just fucking you no matter the building that you're hiding in, no matter where you're at. Caustic would be the go-to character for this sort of situation. Now, you could say, well, the enemies can just shoot your barrels, especially if they're good. Even if you put them in good positions, there's always an angle to shoot a barrel. Very true. However, the counter argument for this is those few seconds that the enemy is taking out of their time to destroy your barrels before running at you could be just enough time for you to get a Phoenix or a battery off, or for the team to reposition and get into good angles to hold off the push. So for this situation, I would say Caustic is a good situational character. Gibraltar, his arm shield, his dome, close range, it's just 3v3. What else do I need to say? Gibraltar is one of the best high tier competitive players for a reason, and almost always, if there is a Gibby on the other team, does it make my life so much harder. And if I have a Gibby on my team, it makes my life so much easier. Gibby is almost a must have. He is very good, and I would put Gibby in S tier for this category for sure. Horizon. Her ult, very expensive. Grenades, also expensive. Her Q, destroyed. This character got destroyed, and if you combine that with how expensive it is to buy grenades, plus her ultimate, this character is almost completely rendered useless, which is kind of crazy considering how insanely overpowered she was just last season. This character now, though, not that good. I would put her in the D category. I would never really fear a Horizon because even if they buy their ultimate and grenades, I know they're basically only going to have P2020s to follow that up. Lifeline. Lifeline in this game mode is actually a very good character because of how many because of how much cover that there actually is in this game mode, and because of the med supply bins. This character is actually extremely useful, and I would highly, highly recommend a Lifeline, especially if you guys need more meds, considering she can get up to 6 extra shield cells and about 2 syringes or 8 shield cells from the blue supply bin, which is extremely useful. Especially in a game that's about meds, this character can be very useful, and because, as I said before, there's a lot of cover, the fact that she can still res you without having to be there, like to actually putting the stem into you, she is a very good character. I would put Lifeline in the B category, not A or S, because I'm being very stringent with those for characters that are the absolute best. Loba. A lot of people do not know this, but Loba can actually grab all of the meds instantly off rip by just queuing out of spawn, placing down her ultimate, and then grabbing all of the meds from both supply bins. This is extremely useful. The amount of money that she is spending to buy her ultimate, and you don't even need to throw her bracelet out immediately, though I would recommend it in a higher tier level of play because Pathfinders, etc., etc. This can guarantee you 4 batteries, 2 Phoenix kits, and 2 med kits for your team. That is just too strong to ignore. It really is. The fact that that character can do that, and her ultimate can also loot the care package and she can see what is in the care package, is actually insane. This character in pubs would be a must have. In high tier level of play, I would even say Loba would be a pretty good character. Some people may argue against this. This is probably going to be one of my most controversial picks, but I would put her in the A category. The only reason I do not put her in S is because whenever it comes to team play, really the only thing she has going for her is the fact that she can grab all the meds and the care package equipment. Mirage, don't play him. He's useless. Enough said. Bangalore, Bangalore in the battle, well, I mean, in the arena is actually pretty good, especially considering the fact that they thickened her smokes, so you can clear off a lot of areas with Bangalore's smoke. I would say Bangalore is actually a very good character, especially considering the fact that you can buy digi threats guaranteed on level 3 SMGs. So you can have your teammate run all SMGs, pop a smoke, and with how thick those smokes are, the enemies are going to have to play scared, or you can pop a smoke while somebody reses, and that you can even hide in your smokes and everything like that. In pubs, I would say Bangalore, especially with her strafe speed and everything, is S tier in pubs. And high tier level of play, if she's played right, like by a very good Bangalore, I feel as though that she could be A tier. However, the normal player or the normal, like, decent Bangalore would probably put her in B tier. So I'm going to split it in the middle between the good pub player category and the normal, and say that Bangalore for both pubs and I would even argue in ranked is just an A tier character. Bloodhound. Bloodhound is very, very useful. You can buy his ultimate for 350 of the crafting material money in the game, and you actually receive 3 scans when you use his ultimate, which is a total investment of 150 that you do not have to spend. So as you subtract that, you're essentially only buying his ultimate for 200 because you're getting 3 scans for free, plus the long extended period of time where you are super fast zoomy boy with his ultimate active. So for that reason, especially whenever it gets towards the later stage of the game, whenever you don't know where the enemies are at or where they're hiding or somebody coming up behind you, I would say Bloodhound solely because of the fact that he gets the 3 additional scans with his ult is S tier. If he did not receive those 3 additional scans with the purchase and the usage of his ultimate, I would put him in A tier. However, considering the fact that he does get those, he is S tier. And that is where I would rank all of the characters for both pubs and high tier ranked arena gameplay, going off of what I'm going to educatedly assume it's going to, I mean, the comp scene is going to be like whenever it comes out. This is the tier list that I would put those characters in the usefulness.
Stacy got the brib and a brand new bag. Going up good, so she can't look back.
Just get a house.